Remember the Mark Jackson used to coach Golden State? Remember the Mark Jackson that started St. John's? Remember the Mark Jackson that was Rookie of the Year in the NBA for the New York Knicks? Remember the Mark Jackson that played for the Indiana Pacers? Remember that Mark Jackson that ultimately coached the Golden State Warriors and groomed the Splash Brothers for Steve Kerr to capitalize off of? Remember that?
That team going.
That Mark Jackson.
He was sacrificed.
Can somebody explain to me why this man is still blackballed from the NBA?
We know why.
Not even an assistant coach. As good of a job as he has done, as knowledgeable as he is about the game of basketball. Me personally, him, Van Gundy, I slashed them together. I'd love them being on the same coaching staff because I missed them calling the games.
Stephen A. Smith talks about the Knicks' next head coach. Check out what he had to say, and then I'll come back with my comments.
The firing of Tom Thibodeau by the
Crazy.
New York Knicks. The move came just a few days after the Knicks made their deepest playoff run in 25 years. Tibbs, who led the Knicks to back-to-back 50-win seasons for the first time since 1995, leaves ranking fourth all-time on a franchise list in coaching victories. Now the focus shifts to potential head coaching replacements to lead the team currently built around Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. Let me say this. Before I get into it, I want to tell you this. There are a bunch of names that need to come up. In a few seconds, I'm going to give you about 5 of them. I'm going to give you about 5 of them because you need to know. You need to know. You need to hear the people that's on my list, all right? And I got some honorable mentions as well, and I'll explain why, because I'm going all down the line, all right? I'm going all down the line. Just to tip off my producers, Sam Cassell, Ime Udoka. I mean, you can talk about coaches under contract, mind you, okay? The Ty Lues of the world and the Mike Malones and everybody else, Rick Brunson's even, all of them. I'm coming with a second.
Now, as far as coaches that are already on teams, it's going to be tough to pry them away from their existing teams unless the Knicks are willing to offer $100 million for those primetime coaches like Ime Udoka, Ty Lue, coaches that are kind of locked in with their organizations. It's going to be tough to get them away from those teams, but they got some other coaches out there that are currently doing media prior. You got a lot of coaches out there that would love to coach the New York Knicks. It's going to be interesting to see which direction they go.
Now, what you didn't see there was me go, ooh, I didn't think of that. It's a great idea. But here's why I didn't think about that. I know a few people in Houston, including owner Tillman Fertitta. And I'm telling y'all, ain't no way in hell New York Knicks getting Ime Udoka.
It's not happening.
Forget H-Town being H-Town because it's pretty fly. Forget it being in a state with no state income taxes. That's cool, too. Ime Udoka is under contract for the next 2 years.
Again, that's what I'm saying. You got coaches that are not only great, but are under contract, locked in with their situations with their team. So, yeah, I know Ime Udoka. I know he's going to be a name that everybody wants on their team as their head coach. But with 2 years left remaining, Houston, no state income taxes, the owner of the Houston Rockets, he's rocking with them. He's rebuilt that Houston Rockets franchise. They're like a Kevin Durant away from making it to NBA Finals. So they can do some great things with Ime. He can possibly deliver a championship with Houston next season. It's very possible.
He can't leave unless Tillman Fertitta granted him the freedom to do so.
I don't see it
And I'm
happening.
here to tell you, that shit ain't happening.
Nah.
Ain't happening. Ime Udoka ain't going nowhere if Tillman Fertitta has anything to say about it. He loves that man. His staff loves that man. His employees love that man, Ime Udoka. This ain't Boston,
Yep.
where you sat there and railroaded him out of town. And I ain't going to bring up why. All I'm going to say is that, damn it, he wasn't the first and he ain't the last.
Now, Stephen A. Smith knows he wants to go in detail, but he had a lot of back and forth with Malika Andrews. I think Molly may have chimed in too. So he doesn't want to, piss off the feminists. So he's going to try, walk the line correctly. He was blackballed in Boston. I guess he had a consensual situation with a female staffer. And, of course, they had to get rid of Ime Udoka. And the chick, it is what it is. She's probably with the organization still. She's going to always get a pass, but we already know the dudes. They're going to be the first ones to get fired from a company and the organization. And that's what happened to Ime, and he revived his career in Houston, showed that he's supposed to be on that coaching sidelines, and I'm glad he was able to bounce back. And like I said, got Houston relevant again and could possibly win a championship, at least in the next 2 seasons.
But somehow, his personal business, which could have been an HR issue, became public consumption.
Yep. Y'all covered it, though.
I ain't gonna get in the fact there's a whole bunch of white boys that were guilty of such proclivities for decades. And we ain't hear nothing. I know at least 3 dudes that lost their job in the last couple of years, all white, and landed at another NBA team. Nobody said nothing.
Yeah, true. I don't want to make it a black and white thing. I just think certain organizations, they roll a certain way. And you did say that people started to talk about his personal HR issue. Well, y'all did cover it, made plenty of segments. So if you wanted to stand on business, he could have elected to be like, you know what? I ain't going to speak on this. I'm going to let everybody else talk. I may stay on the screen, or I may step away from this 15-minute segment. So as much as you don't like the way that it became, something that was supposed to be a personal HR issue into a public issue, you and your network ran a lot of content on Ime Udoka, but you're at fault as well, Stephen A. Smith, and your network, as far as this situation being talked about publicly. Y'all weren't the only ones, but y'all were the biggest company talking about this situation.
We knew. We didn't report it because the team didn't confirm it, because the team didn't want it out there like that. They let the people go on about their business, but Ime Udoka they threw under the bus and tried to ruin his career.
They almost did.
And Tillman Fertitta and the Houston Rockets said, damn that, we trying to win.
Shout out to them.
He's one of the greatest coaches in the game. Easily top 5 coach in basketball. That brother's special. A hell of a coach. Who would have coached Boston to the championship, but that ended up being Joey Mazzulla. That Ime Udoka. Oh, my Lord. Everything I said about the Knicks yesterday that raked my damn nerves, even their weak statement by President Leon Rose, I would have forgave that if they came and said, yo, man, Ime Udoka is the new head coach of the New York Knicks.
Yeah, Stephen A. Smith was going off on the Knicks in his last podcast, and if they were able to get Ime Udoka, if that was the plan, the domino effect, you get rid of Tibbs and you get Ime, oh yeah, all is well with the Knicks. They're going to make a solid move. They're going to make a solid signing, but getting an Ime Udoka would have been great. Not sure if it's going to happen unless they grant him that opportunity to take interviews, but no one's going to let go of Ime Udoka as long as there's no BS going on. He's going to be with the Houston Rockets for many years to come.
All would have been forgiven. All would have been forgiven. Because that man, not Leon Rose, Ime Udoka, is a hell of a coach.
Yeah, he is.
And that brother right there, if they could get him, fine. But he's got 2 years left on his deal in Houston. And I called the source within the organization 5 minutes ago. And they said, you couldn't pay us enough. He ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, that's what
I know
it
it's
is.
a double negative. He ain't going nowhere, but he ain't going nowhere. Grammatically incorrect and all. He ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, you don't let go of a coach like Ime Udoka, someone that can turn the franchise around. First year, got his feet wet with the Houston Rockets. Next season, believe they were, second in the Western Conference? So they did what they had to do. So you're not going to let go as far as a culture setter like a Ime Udoka. No matter what happened or didn't happen in Boston, blackball his career, he was able to bounce back. So again, the owner of the Houston Rockets, that fan base, that front office, they're going to do everything in their power to keep Ime Udoka a Houston Rocket for many years.
Ime Udoka staying in Houston.
Of course.
But let me give you a list of names you might want to consider. I want to throw out Sam Cassell, assistant coach with the Boston Celtics, because he should be a head coach in this game and he deserves an honorable mention. It just may not necessarily need to be in New York, because, you was in Boston last year. You don't want to contaminate us, you know what I'm saying?
If he's a good coach, he's a good coach.
Boston is New York. I don't know about that. But Sam Cassell deserves to be a head coach in the NBA. So we got to throw his name for consideration, all right? I'm going to throw out these names for you. You ready? I'm going to throw out Jay Wright, former head coach at Villanova, 2-time national champion, 4 trips to the Final Four. You're going to say why? Jalen Brunson is the star of the team. Josh Hart and Mikal Bridges are on the team for the foreseeable future. They ain't going nowhere. And on top of it all, Not only are they not going anywhere, even though Mikal Bridges might end up being moved because he'll be looking for a contract extension in a year, the bottom line is all three played at Villanova. Jay Wright is a consideration.
I don't know about Jay Wright. I guess it makes sense with Jalen Brunson, but I think they already did enough for Jalen Brunson. Yeah, you took a pay cut, commendable, but we got your homie, Mikal Bridges, all those draft picks. They kind of sacrificed their team and their growth to kind of, get Mikal Bridges on that team. So, yeah, Jay Wright, he could be a good coach, but I think you bypass that and try to go for the best candidate.
I'm going to throw out another name for you. Jalen Brunson's daddy, who's been on the bench last couple of years, last 2-3 years, who I can tell you knows his basketball. Used to start at Temple, played in the NBA, rough and rugged, no punk in him at all. You're going to be tough playing for him. You're going to be accountable playing for him. I like Rick Brunson. I think he's somebody that we should keep our eyes on for future opportunities in the NBA personally. I'm letting you know that right now. I'm just throwing him on my list.
Yeah, that's a Jalen Brunson hire. Get your pops on, which is cool. You got to post to the locker room. Every time there was a timeout with the Knicks, they always panned out and showed Rick Brunson. So I guess that's good for Jalen, but you don't want to just hire him just because he's the father of Jalen Brunson. If he's the best person for the job, cool. But I think you got more candidates out there. But shout out to him. Maybe he will get an opportunity on a different team.
Number 3 on the list, Mike Malone, former coach in Denver. Won an NBA championship a couple of years ago. Just worked with me during the Western Conference Finals. I would have no problem if the New York Knicks picked him as the next head coach of the franchise. No problem whatsoever. I know he departed under tense terms because players kind of needed to hear a new voice. He was big on player accountability. He didn't have the greatest relationship, reportedly anyway, with the GM, Calvin Booth. And so both of them ended up getting booted out of there by the Kroenkes, who own the team.
Same time.
But Mike Malone is a champion and a damn great basketball mind who has proven he can coach. We ain't sleeping on that. So he would definitely be on my list.
I think you pretty much got the Western Conference version of Coach Thibodeau. Yeah, Mike Malone won the championship. Tibbs won a championship as an assistant with the Boston Celtics in 2008, so he's a champion in his own right. Wasn't a champion as a head coach, but he knows what it takes to win a ring. So again, going with Mike Malone, I guess that's a good quality hire, but he is kind of bullheaded. He likes to stick to his lineups, so you're pretty much going to have a different version, a same version of Tibbs. So I think he can be a viable candidate depending on if you go through the full coaching cycle and go through those interview processes. I guess you can put him in a top 5, but he wouldn't be a first option for me.
Wouldn't put him top 2, though.
Nah, top 5 for sure.
Put Mark Jackson at number 2. Remember the Mark Jackson used to coach in Golden State? Remember the Mark Jackson that started St. John's? Remember the Mark Jackson that was Rookie of the Year in the NBA for the New York Knicks? Remember the Mark Jackson that played for the Indiana Pacers? Remember that Mark Jackson that ultimately coached the Golden State Warriors and groomed the Splash Brothers for Steve Kerr to capitalize off of? Remember that?
That team going.
That Mark Jackson.
He was sacrificed.
Can somebody explain to me why this man is still blackballed from the NBA?
We know why.
Not even an assistant coach. As good of a job as he has done, as knowledgeable as he is about the game of basketball. Me personally, him, Van Gundy, I slashed them together. I'd love them being on the same coaching staff because I missed them calling the games. Love the job J.J. Redick did calling games. Love the job that Richard Jefferson with Doris Burke and Mike Breen do calling the games. Love the job that Tim Legler does. Love my man Ryan Rucco, the whole bit. No shade on nobody. I'm proud to call these folks colleagues. They're great. But I'm not going to lie and tell you that I don't miss Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy, who, by the way, Jeff Van Gundy's the lead assistant on the Los Angeles Clippers bench. Yeah. I think if Mark Jackson were to get a head coaching job, Jeff Van Gundy should be his top assistant. I think if Jeff Van Gundy gets a head coaching job, Mark Jackson should be his top assistant. That's how I'm flowing with it.
Yeah, as far as Mark Jackson getting an opportunity, that'd be great, but we already know why he's not a coach in the NBA right now. His biblical standards, what he represents, this may not align with what's going on in the NBA currently. They don't want a coach like that has a presence biblically to be out there, overly coaching or judging people. I think that's the perception. Like, we don't want that type of presence in the locker room. It ain't right, but the Warriors, that was his best opportunity, maybe his last opportunity to be a coach, but hopefully he gets an opportunity in the near future. And why not? The New York Knicks, they need a presence like that. I think he's a different version of Coach Thibodeau. I think he's kind of, up to date. He knows what's going on, and he could be a great choice. My choice, Mark Jackson, being the coach of the New York Knicks.
That's how I'm flowing with it. And not only that, when you consider New York and the sizzle that you need, since people like Leon Rose don't want to talk to the media, it helps to see a guy like Mark Jackson talking because he's one of our own in New York.
Good vibes.
You understand? We love Bishop Loughlin, St. John's, Knicks. This is Mark Jackson, one of the greatest point guards in New York history, by the way. And you talking to a brother that grew up, the great Kenny Enson, don't get me wrong, he wasn't better than these dudes, but he was in that ballpark because he was sensational. Rod Strickland just saw him the other day at the Knicks game. Stephon Marbury might be the greatest point guard in the history of New York. Let's not sleep on that, brother. Okay? You got the Nate Tiny Archibalds, the Stephon Marbury, the Rod Stricklands, the late, great Dwayne Pearl Washington, the greatest show in the history of college basketball. You think I'm lying? Go back and watch the tape.
Way before my time.
Go back and watch the tape.
Research.
Listen, Dwayne Pearl Washington. It went to Syracuse. We had some great point guards. Kenny the Jet Smith. Let's not forget him. Kareem Reed out of St. Raymond's. Let's not forget him. God Wells, one of the greatest handles in history. Let's not forget him. With all of that being said, still got to mention Mark Jackson. Still got to mention Mark Jackson. He's one of us. In New York City, with him as the head coach, worth consideration.
I want to throw one name out there, but I'm going to let him finish his list. I think this is an obvious choice. Y'all should know who I'm about to bring up, but I'm going to let him go ahead and finish off his list of coaches for the New York Knicks. I got one that's really going to make the internet go insane.
Just can't put him number one at the list against another dude who's under contract. And I put Ime Udoka in the same category, slash him number one with the great Ty Lue for the Los Angeles Clippers. A champion, somebody who continuously overachieves, who makes in-game adjustments, who, if James Harden was short for a Game 7, who knows how far he would have gone. I'm just sorry. I love James Harden, but damn. I'm just saying these are things to consider. So I got Ty Lue slash Ime Udoka both under contract. Teams ain't letting them out their deals. We understand that. I got Mark Jackson, who everybody should have on their list to be a head coach in the NBA. I got Mike Malone, who everybody should have on their list to be a coach in the NBA. He's a champion. Okay. I got Rick Brunson, and I got Jay Wright, with an honorable mention for my man Sam Cassell in Boston, who deserves a head coaching opportunity at some point, if not already. That's just me. That's just me.
Stephen A. Smith forgot about one coach that no one's really talking about right now, Steve Nash. Remember the last coach that was on Mind the Game, J.J. Redick? He became the coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Think about Steve Nash. He's going to do about 10 episodes with Mind the Game, and this is a perfect opportunity for him to throw his name in the coaching hat. Like, look, hey, I'm still trying to coach. I coached the Brooklyn Nets. Didn't really go the way I wanted it to go. Hey, another opportunity in New York, a huge market. I played in Brooklyn, completely different, but I'm used to that New York scene, so don't be surprised if you start hearing Steve Nash's name in the coaching mix for the Knicks.
A producer in my ear brought up Danny Hurley. Really?
Nah.
He's at Connecticut, UConn, you know what I'm saying?
Stay in college, bro.
Danny Hurley, I'm not going to poo-poo that. The Hurleys are the Hurleys. They're an institution. So I was getting ready to get on my producer about that, but he's actually right. And since he's right, I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, Danny Hurley, I doubt it. Not going to happen. Stay at UConn. Keep making that money. I think he's making about 70 or 80 million. So he's making NBA-type money coaching college. So I don't see his name in the mix other than Jay Wright, a college coach. I think that's going to be where it's at. Mark Jackson would be my hire if I had the power to hire a coach for the Knicks, just to get another opportunity. The whole blackballing thing with the Warriors, him being who he is and what he represents, that's the reason why he's not in the NBA right now. He's not going to conform and just, fold under pressure. He's going to speak his mind, and a lot of people, they don't like that in those higher positions, and you can't represent certain biblical values because they feel as though you may scare players away. So hopefully Mark Jackson gets an opportunity, and we'll see what happens moving forward with the Knicks coaching search.